Hey everybody, Intense Angler here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about sleeping bags, more specifically sleeping systems. Um, what I wanted to talk about and go over a little bit was how to get by with one sleeping bag as the core of your sleeping system for all 4 seasons. That's my approach, and it's worked well for me. And I just wanted to show you a little bit about that. I know that in my earlier years, I spent many nights outside freezing um, parts of my body off. So I'm sure some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And after a hard day in the outdoors, whether it's hiking, hunting, fishing, climbing, whatever we're doing out there, a good night's sleep is pretty critical. And like I said, I've spent my share out there shivering through them, so waiting for dawn to come and go and sit by that fire. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you a little bit and show you my system. We'll go over bag types a little bit. We'll go over some pads, some pad choices, some pad types, some liners, and just kind of go over the whole system. And I'll show you at least just my experience. I'm not an expert here, but I'll show you my experience with getting the most versatility out of my sleeping system. Okay, so we'll start with the bag since it forms the core of the sleeping system and obviously is the most important component. And as you can see, this is the bag that I have. This is the bag that I use for all 4 seasons. With the exception of sometimes in the dead of summer when it's the hottest, I'll just go with my bag liner, which is another part of my system here that I'll show you. But just as far as the bag itself goes, it's a mummy bag rated to 20 degrees, which is it's pretty close. I wouldn't say quite that much without a little bit of shivering going on, but it is rated at 20 degrees. Synthetic filled versus down. And one of the reasons I went that route was first cost. The synthetic it's a lot cheaper than the down, and it doesn't lose near as much of its insulating properties when it's wet. Down pretty much when it's wet, it's pretty much useless, and it's about impossible to dry back out, especially when you're out on the trail. Synthetics lose about a third of their insulating properties and are a lot easier to get dry. So for what I do, my intended use, this works for me. So another thing was packability. This bag compresses pretty small. I'll insert a picture in the stuff sack, the compression bag that it came in, and show you the size, but it does fit in my day pack, which is the bag that I use for most of my trips. So it fits pretty small. There's cost, there's packability. Weight on this particular bag is, I think it's just under 3 pounds. Not as light as down, doesn't pack down quite as small as down, but then again, I had to look at the upsides as well, was cost and moisture. A lot of my overnighters are done, where it's pretty wet, either up in the mountains or out in exposed country or next to the river. But I tend to go or rain follows me everywhere. So anyway, those are some of the factors that I took into account when choosing this bag. You'll want to choose the one that's most appropriate for you. Putting into a little bit of thought into it. The other thing I wanted to say regarding the bag is my approach in my sleeping system allows me to just use this one bag, so I don't have to have 2 or 3 different bags, a big thick heavy one for winter, a light one for summer. I can get by with this bag and my sleeping system and adjust it and tailor it to whatever trip I'm going on, whatever my intended use is for it. So I think that pretty much covers the bag. The next item in the sleeping system is the sleeping pad. No matter how good your bag is, it's not going to be nearly as good as it should be if you don't have something to protect you from the ground. Your body weight compresses whatever insulation is in the bag, and you lose the majority of your heat directly to the ground. So it's obviously important to have something between the bag and the ground to prevent that. There's a few different types of pads out there. There's everything from just in cheap inflatable air mattresses that just use air, no insulation abilities or properties there. There's the closed cell foam types, which is here. This is just a cheap one. You can obviously get them a little bit more spendy, a little bit better. Ridge Rest is a good example of that. A lot more comfortable and just a little bit better pad. This cheap $5 Walmart one works just fine for me. The closed cell foam ones here are not the most comfortable. They don't have, yeah, they're just not very comfortable. I sleep pretty well on a hard surface. It's not an issue for me. And when I get a little bit older, it probably will be as I age, but this serves my purposes just fine. Going up the line, and the most popular and what a lot of people feel the best are the self-inflating pads, you know, the therma-rest and that type of thing. And they give you, you know, air and some insulation. So you get a level of comfort as well as warmth out of that bag, the insulation, or not that bag, sorry, but the pad. So you get some insulation as well. So they're popular for a reason. And like I said, this is what I use. It gives me that barrier between the ground and my bag, so I'm not losing my heat to the ground or the couch in this video. Okay, now here's another thing, that a little trick, I guess, that I picked up, and this works really well for me. I am a really cold sleeper, and it's one of the reasons why my sleeping system is so important to me, and one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video is, like I said earlier, I spent way too many nights shivering before I started smartening up a little bit. So anyway, so I got the closed cell foam down here, and then you can see this here. This is just a cheap dollar store windshield heat reflector. You know, it protects the heat from coming in your car window. The reason I like this one is because it's really thin and it weighs nothing. It's an ounce and a half here, and it has a tiny bit of padding on it, so it increases my comfort level just a little bit. But the reflective material reflects my body heat back to me. So I've found, just me personally here, I'm getting the most heat retention possible with this setup. That's just my experience. Some people are going to disagree with that probably, but nobody can convince me in the winter to not carry this. So this works out great. Like I said, it weighs nothing, ultra thin. It just rolls up with my pad, and yeah, so that's a little trick that I use there. One good thing I also wanted to say about this is I thought about using a survival type blanket, the Mylar blankets, but man, those things are noisy, and they slip all over the place. They're just you know, I could envision multiple problems with that. Just that crunching noise alone would keep me up all night. This doesn't have that. There is a little bit of crinkle to it, I guess, but yeah, it's not an issue, so it works well for me. One other cool little trick or tip I wanted to share with you was regarding that reflective windshield protector. I don't know if you've seen my other video or not on my backpacking gear, but this is the sitting pad that I use, that I take with me. And it's made out of that same material. I duct tape the edges and use it for sitting around camp. Now, I haven't done it yet, but what I'm going to do with this one is make a bigger version of this and just use that as my sitting pad, and then at night fold it out, you know, for my pad. So yeah, multiple functions out of the same item.